My name's Scottie Rivera, and I'm the owner of Scottie's Pizza Parlor here in Southeast Portland. This place is the culmination of a lot of years of work and passion for making pizza. I was born in Brooklyn and moved away at a young age to New Mexico. My parents split up, and my mom wanted to be a cattle rancher. So we moved out west. My dad stayed in New York though, so I'd go back and spend summers with him, and my fondest memories are eating pizza with my dad. Over time of working in the industry, I really began to prioritize like worker well-being as a part of, as a part of that industry that should be valued a lot more than it is right now. I think that like food service labor is just so undervalued. A lot of people tend to think like, oh, anybody can flip a burger or make a pizza or fry up some eggs in the morning, but like that's not all that work is. And first of all, like you can be very specialized in that skill. Like there's a difference between a really good burger and a really bad burger, and a really good pizza and a really bad pizza, right? But just standing there flipping burgers is not what burger flippers do. Like, there's so much more back-breaking, long hours of work that goes into this industry that feeds us. And, it only makes sense that the people who work to put food on our tables should be able to put food on their own tables, feed their own families, and put a roof over their head, and be healthy and have a career if that's what they enjoy doing. My wife and I were visiting my dad, just, often going back to see him in New York, and she asked him a question that I had never asked him, which is like, what's the story with Scottie's, grandparents? Like, where's the family come from and all this stuff? I had only ever known my dad as Puerto Rican as long as I lived. My last name is Rivera. He's a salsa musician. He speaks Spanish. And so my dad's response to that question was, oh, well, my father was Puerto Rican and dark-skinned, but my mother was Italian. And her mother immigrated from Naples, like on the boat and everything, right? And the story is that they got together. My dad's parents got together. My dad was born, but this is like the 50s, in New York City. Mixed race child couple was not necessarily that accepted, and so my dad was cast out of the Italian side of his family, and raised by, at that point, like his father was pretty young and wasn't in the picture either, so he was raised by his grandmother on his Puerto Rican side, who he adored. Like he always spoke fondly of her to me. I knew about her, but I'd never known that I had Italian blood in my veins. And here I was, like, discovering pizza and my love for pizza and understanding, like, this is my thing that I want to do for my life. And so it's so cool to learn that, such a rush. And it's pretty quick, before I realized, like, okay, like, I'm gonna start making plans to open my own pizzeria. And by that time, after all this experience and perspective that I'd gained, kind of just growing up, I guess, and working and learning, step one in my business plan was, okay, how do you make a restaurant work and pay all workers a living wage, which at the time, I believe was $15 an hour. So, I set to work, I did all my research on food cost and overheads, and was, staying up late at night, trying to Google like what do payroll taxes cost? How does that work? What does workers' comp insurance cost? And what kind of pizza oven do I want? And drew up a like super comprehensive business plan. It took me over a year to come up with like all these sales projections and ideas, and what's my menu going to be, and what do I want to do, which is important if you want to start a business. Write a business plan. But at a certain point, I planned so much, and there was like no more planning to do, and I kind of just started casually looking around for spaces on like Craigslist, I think, and I found this space. It's hard. Opening a restaurant, everybody told me the first few years, like it's gonna be everything you do. And, I wanted to deny that. I wanted to be like, no, I'm gonna do it differently, but it turned out to be true. We're 3 years in, and I was able to take a vacation after a year. And so that was cool. But like during that first vacation, I was like pins and needles, white knuckled, like, is everything okay? Like I'm on the phone all the time, just checking in, or, maybe something does happen and it's like, but I think the work-life balance, it takes time, but it's definitely something I'm finally able to focus on now, which feels really good. Oh my goodness, I mean, first and foremost, my wife and I, like, we, not only would we like barely see each other, the first couple years that we were open, first year especially, but then, the worst is that like when we did have time together, all I can talk about is what's going on, and ask her help for stuff, because it's too much for one person to take on, and there aren't enough hours in the day, so, fortunately we've like survived that like most intense period of starting our business. We just celebrated our 8-year wedding anniversary, so yeah, I'm super grateful to her for hanging in with me, and helping so much to get this business off the ground. But yeah, otherwise it's like, it's hard to make plans. It's hard to get out. It's hard to have friends. And, if you're fortunate enough to work with great people, then they sort of become your family, and your new family and friends. And that's kind of been my life past few years. Made a bunch of friends in the food industry, other restaurant owners. Still pals with Will at Handsome Pizza, who has since I worked in that little tiny garage space, he has partnered with 3 other people, and they've expanded into a bigger location, and they have Handsome Pizza and Sea Star Bakery up on Killingsworth, and they're doing great. I met and made friends with Chardell Dews, who owns Red Sauce Pizza, and we're like totally pals now. And it's really cool to have friends in the like very specific like same industry that you're working in, because any time we just like text each other so easily, like, hey, do you have a good source for pizza boxes? I can't get custom pizza boxes printed, or what are you paying for business liability insurance? Like that kind of stuff. And it's just so helpful to have, not only like a sounding board, but a resource, a person that you can talk to and learn from, or exchange ideas with. I think that's the really special thing, is like the exchange between friends and colleagues, and even coworkers here, in the pizza parlor. It's like there's something magical that happens when somebody is teaching another person something.